Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the really profound ideas of John Dewey,
Mm.
a thinker whose influence on American education, philosophy, well, it continues to shape our world. You might know his name, but maybe not realize just how revolutionary his insights were.
Yeah,
And perhaps even more surprisingly, how incredibly relevant they still feel almost a century later.
that's absolutely right. Dewey, he really stands among giants like Augustine, Descartes,
Mhm.
people who made philosophy speak to the challenges of their day.
Right.
And our focus today is experience in education. So one of his most accessible works, concise too, from 1938.
1938.
Yeah, and it's much more than just like a historical text.
Yeah.
It really is a kind of blueprint for understanding what genuine education should be about.
So our mission on this deep dive is to sort of cut through the noise, maybe the labels, and those persistent either-or arguments that still seem to pop up in education discussions.
Oh, that's it.
We're going to unpack Dewey's argument for what he called education pure and simple, what that really means, explore his core principles,
Yeah.
and maybe see why his ideas still offer such clear guidance for, well, a more united way forward in learning.
That's good.
So let's start where Dewey often did. He noticed this human tendency, didn't he, to think in extreme opposites.
Oh, absolutely. Black and white thinking.
And education philosophy is no exception. He saw this stark division, traditional versus progressive education.
Mhm.
Could you maybe sketch out those two camps for us? What was he seeing?
Sure. So the traditional model, well, the subject matter was seen as pretty fixed. Bodies of information, skills, all handed down from the past.
Sure.
And the school's main job, just transmit that stuff to the next generation. Moral training was about forming habits that fit the existing rules.
Very conformist.
Exactly. And the school itself, it was this distinct place,
Yeah.
very separate from, say, family life. Think time schedules, exams, rules of order, that kind of thing.
And the students in that system, what was their role?
Well, their attitude was largely expected to be docile,
Yeah.
receptive, obedient,
Just absorb it.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Teachers were the conduits,
Mhm.
and textbooks were the main source of, as he put it, lore and wisdom.
Right. Sounds quite rigid. Now, the new education, the progressive movement, that came out of unhappiness with this, right?
Yes, directly.
So how did it challenge those ideas?
Well, in many ways, it was a reaction, a direct opposite. So instead of imposition from above, it was all about expressing individuality, cultivating it.
Okay.
Instead of external discipline, you had free activity. Instead of just learning from texts, the emphasis was on learning through actual experience, doing things.
Hands-on.
Exactly. And rather than drilling isolated skills, you acquired them because you needed them for something that felt, directly important, vital.
Right. Relevant.
And crucially, instead of just preparing for some distant future, it was about making the most of the present opportunities because the world is changing.
That really does sound like a breath of fresh air, a necessary shift, perhaps. But Dewey, even while supporting aspects of it, he pointed out a danger, didn't he?
He did, a crucial one.
What was his main worry about a movement defined mostly against the old ways?
It's a really profound warning, actually. He cautioned that any new movement, in its eagerness to reject the old, it can end up developing its principles negatively.
Negatively, how so?
Well, it risks being sort of unwittingly controlled by the very thing it's reacting against.
Ah,
It forms its ideas just in opposition, rather than from a really thorough look at what's actually needed. And this, he argued, could lead straight to what he called miseducative experiences.
miseducative experiences. Okay, that phrase seems key. It brings us right to the core of Dewey's argument, doesn't it? This need for a coherent philosophy of experience.
Precisely.
He said the unity of the newer philosophy was this intimate and necessary relation between the processes of actual experience and education. But, and this is important, he quickly clarified that not all experiences are equally educative.
Right. Some are actively harmful to growth.
So what makes an experience miseducative, in his view?
Well, basically anything that stops or distorts further growth. For example, an experience might make someone callous or less sensitive,
Okay.
and that limits their ability to have richer experiences later on. Or it might push someone into a kind of narrow groove or rut.
Restricting future possibilities.
Exactly. And even experiences that feel good right now, they could foster slack attitudes, carelessness that actually get in the way of future learning.
Interesting.
And maybe most critically, if experiences are just disconnected, random,
Hmm.
they can lead to a sort of scatterbrained person,
Yeah.
someone who can't really control or direct their future experiences effectively.
So what's the secret sauce then? What's the real difference between an experience that educates and one that's miseducative?
Dewey offers two criteria. He says they're indispensable: continuity and interaction.
Okay, continuity and interaction. Let's take continuity first. When he
Yeah.
talks about the experiential continuum, what's he getting at?
So the principle of continuity, or this experiential continuum, it's really rooted in biology, in the fact of habit formation.
Habit.
Yeah. Every single experience we have, it modifies us somehow.
Yeah.
And that modification then affects the quality of the next experience. You're literally, as he puts it, a somewhat different person going into each new situation.
Wow.
And it's not just about fixed habits like brushing your teeth.
Mm.
It's deeper. It's the formation of attitudes, sensitivities, new ways of responding to life.
Okay.
There's that beautiful line from Tennyson he sometimes references.
Yeah.
All experience is an arch, where through gleams that untraveled world, whose margin fades forever and forever when I move.
That really captures it, this sense of constant becoming. But it also brings up that earlier point about growth potentially going in wrong directions, like the expert burglar example.
Right.
How does continuity alone help us tell the difference between good growth and, well, destructive growth?
That's the crucial question. Dewey really digs into this. The point isn't just that growth is happening. It's whether that specific kind of growth helps or hinders growth in general.
Oh.
Does it create conditions for more growth? Does it open up new possibilities? Or does it actually shut down pathways for continuing growth in new areas?
Right.
Only when development in one specific line leads to continuing growth, allowing for broader, richer experiences down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Only then does it meet his standard of education as genuine growing.
That makes a lot more sense. It's not just learning more stuff, but learning in a way that expands your capacity to learn and live more. Okay, so what about the second principle, interaction?
So interaction. This recognizes that experience, well, it never just happens in a vacuum or only inside your head.
Right.
Every real experience has an active side. It changes the objective conditions around us. I mean, think about civilization versus savagery, or just the existence of roads, tools.
Humans made.
Exactly. Products of past human activities that profoundly shape our present experiences. Our experiences are always being fed by these external springs. A child in a slum, for instance, has a totally different set of experiences feeding into them compared to a child in a, say, cultured home environment.
So it's this constant back and forth
Yeah.
between our internal state, needs, desires, goals, and the external objective world around us. Is that the idea?
Precisely. Continuity and interaction, they're inseparable. He called them the longitudinal and lateral aspects of experience.
Longitudinal and lateral.
Okay. Together they create what he calls a situation. And the big problem with traditional education, it focused almost entirely on the external conditions, ignoring the learner's internal world.
Right.
But he warns, the new education can make the opposite mistake. It can subordinate the objective side too much to just the immediate whims and inclinations of the young person.
Finding that balance seems key. He used that analogy, didn't he?
Yeah.
About a wise mother and an infant.
Yes, it's a brilliant illustration. A wise mother, she considers the baby's needs, its impulses, of course. Sure. But she also thoughtfully regulates things like feeding, sleep schedules. She draws on her own past experience, maybe expert knowledge, too.
Right. Structure.
And this structure isn't limiting the baby's freedom. Actually, Dewey argues, it widens the mother's intelligence, her ability to parent effectively. And that enables better, more integrated experiences for the child.
So true freedom isn't just doing whatever you feel like moment to moment.
Exactly. It's about the continuity of developing experience. That's the real freedom.
Which puts a huge responsibility on the educator then. Much more than just teaching facts.
Oh, immense. A primary responsibility is being really aware of how the environment shapes experience, and then consciously using the physical and social surroundings to build worthwhile experiences.
Designing learning.
That's exactly it. And that's why Dewey says progressive education is actually more difficult than the traditional kind.
More difficult.
Yeah, because it demands you understand the specific needs, the capacities of these particular kids at this particular time.
Yeah.
You can't just rely on subjects or methods that are supposedly good in themselves. It's about tailoring the experience.
Okay, let's talk about freedom some more. It's often a flashpoint in education debates. Free expression, freedom to choose. How does Dewey think about freedom differently, beyond just, say, physical movement?
Yeah, this is where he really pushes back against common ideas. He argues the big mistake is confusing freedom with just, physical movement.
Yeah.
lack of constraint.
Okay.
For Dewey, true freedom is freedom of intelligence. It's the freedom to observe, to judge, in pursuit of purposes that are actually worthwhile in
And
themselves.
freedom of intelligence.
Right. Now, physical freedom, being able to move around a classroom, for example, that can be a means to achieve this intellectual freedom. It's not the end goal.
So it might help a teacher understand students better or enable certain kinds of learning.
Exactly. But what you do with that freedom, that's everything.
And this connects directly to his idea of social control, right? Which sounds almost like the opposite of freedom. How can you have both?
It does sound contradictory at first. But he asks us to think about something like a game, like baseball.
Okay.
There are strict rules, right? An umpire, standard ways of doing things. But the players, they don't usually feel like they're being forced into anything by some external power.
No, they feel like they're playing the game.
Exactly. The control comes from the whole situation, as he puts it. Everyone's involved, sharing, cooperating within that structure. It feels social, not personal.
So in a really well-run classroom or even a family, the control isn't mainly coming from the teacher's or parents' personal authority.
No, ideally not.
Yeah.
The authority figure acts more like a representative and agent of the interests of the group as a whole.
Representing the situation almost?
Yes, the activities themselves, the shared goals, the situation they're all in that becomes the main source of control. And Dewey noted kids are actually very sensitive to this.
How so?
They can tell the difference between someone using arbitrary personal power versus actions taken for the good of the group.
Yeah.
They're often quick to call someone out for being too bossy.
Yeah, that's true. So this really changes the teacher's role from just, keeping order.
Oh, completely. The teacher isn't some external boss or dictator. They're a leader of group activities.
Or a leader.
Yes. Their
Yeah.
greater maturity, their knowledge, it isn't for barking orders. It's for skillfully arranging the conditions, the environment, so that community activity and organization can flourish. So individual impulses get naturally guided by the shared projects.
That sounds like it requires a lot more thought, more planning.
Absolutely. A much more intelligent and therefore, yes, more difficult kind of planning and orchestration from the teacher.
It's interesting how this even touches on something as basic as manners. You might think, progressive education focused on freedom might not care much about politeness.
Right. It seems counterintuitive, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Manners are obviously conventional. They change across cultures and times.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that some code of manners exists seems to be universal in social groups. They act like the oil which prevents or reduces friction.
Nice analogy.
And when progressive schools sometimes lack manners, maybe because kids were just so eager, Dewey saw that as a genuine educational failure.
Why a failure?
Because it actually hindered the formation of habits needed for future learning. Good social contact, easy interaction, that's crucial for learning from others. So neglecting manners could ironically limit freedom in the long run.
That's a fascinating point. Okay, moving to another key idea, purpose. Dewey links freedom very closely to our power to frame purposes. And he draws this really sharp line between just an impulse or a desire and what he calls a genuine purpose. Can you walk us through that?
Yes, this is critical. He defines a purpose as an end view. It's not just wanting something. It involves foresight, seeing the consequences that are likely to result from acting on an impulse.
Okay, so thinking ahead.
Right. It's the operation of intelligence that transforms that raw impulse into a meaningful purpose. And that requires, he says, three things.
What are they?
1, careful observation of the surrounding conditions. 2, knowledge drawn from similar situations in the past. And 3, sound judgment to put it all together.
Like a mental checklist.
Kind of. He calls it the stop, look, listen of the mind. You pause, assess, then decide.
So a purpose isn't just having a really strong desire right now.
No, definitely not. An intense desire can easily just steamroll any realistic assessment of consequences.
We've all been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the crucial educational problem, especially for progressive schools, is encouraging that pause, postponing immediate action until observation and judgment can actually happen.
So if you overemphasize just doing things, activity for activity's sake,
Then freedom can get confused with just acting on impulse, which isn't freedom of intelligence at all.
right.
And the teacher's guidance here, helping students think through consequences, that's not restricting freedom, it's an aid to freedom. It helps the purpose become clearer, stronger, through a kind of cooperative social intelligence.
And this naturally leads into selecting and organizing subject matter, which Dewey saw as a major challenge for progressive education.
A huge challenge.
Huh.
Because while the new education rightly starts with the learner's current experience,
Where they are now.
right, The absolutely critical next step is the progressive development of that experience, moving it towards a fuller, more organized form, gradually getting closer to how a skilled adult understands that area.
Like how a baby learns language, maybe, naturally progressing.
Exactly. That happens naturally in infancy. The educator's job is to make that progressive organization happen consciously,
Hmm.
deliberately, with older learners.
So the knowledge we already have, the established subjects, they aren't just things to possess, they're tools to open up new areas.
That's a great way to put it. Tools for exploration.
This sounds like a strong case for why the past is still incredibly important, even in a progressive model.
Oh, absolutely vital. He was concerned that in reacting against traditional education's obsession with the past,
Some progressives might just throw it out entirely.
right? But Dewey argues forcefully that the achievements of the past provide the only means at command for understanding the present. You simply can't grasp current social problems, for instance, without looking at their history.
So history isn't just about knowing dates.
Not at all. Knowing the past should be a means to understand now. It's the context, the foundation,
Yeah.
never just an end in itself.
And he saw the scientific method playing a key role here, didn't he? Almost like a model for organizing knowledge progressively.
Yes, he really championed the systematic utilization of scientific method as the pattern and ideal of intelligent exploration.
But not just like Bunsen burners and lab coats.
No, not necessarily specialized techniques, more as fundamental attitudes and processes. He highlighted three main things.
Okay.
First, seeing ideas as hypotheses. They aren't final truths. They're proposals to be tested, revised. This demands you formulate them clearly.
Okay, stay flexible. What's second?
Second, testing by consequences. You find out if an idea works by acting on it and seeing what happens. Observation of results is crucial. Activity without that observation, he said, leads nowhere intellectually.
Learn by doing and by seeing what happens when you do. Makes sense. And
Third, keeping track. This means reflection. Looking back, reviewing, summarizing, figuring out what was significant, recording it somehow.
so processing the experience.
Exactly. To reflect is to look back and extract the net meanings. Those become your capital stock, as he put it, for dealing intelligently with future experiences. This whole reflective process, that's the heart of intellectual organization and of the disciplined mind.
Wow. So it's not just science as a subject, it's the process of science questioning, testing, reflecting, refining. That's the model for all intelligent learning and maybe even living.
That's exactly his point. It's
Yeah.
about cultivating that kind of active, adaptable, questioning mind.
A continuous spiral of learning, as he called it.
Precisely. So really, what we've discovered in this deep dive, I think, is that Dewey's core message wasn't ever about picking sides, not new versus old or progressive versus traditional.
Right. He was pushing past those labels. He challenged us to ask fundamentally what anything, whatever must be to be worthy of the name education. He wanted education pure and simple.
Guided by a really deep, coherent philosophy of experience, based on how we actually learn and grow.
And he was clear this wasn't the easy path.
Not at all. He warned it's more strenuous and difficult. It demands constant, intelligent effort from educators, carefully choosing experiences, organizing them, always looking ahead but connecting back,
Mhm.
and embracing that rigorous scientific way of thinking in our daily work.
So as you reflect on all this, maybe consider this quite provocative thought from Dewey. If this method of intelligence, the one we see in science, if it's never really been systematically applied day in and day out in schools across all subjects,
Hmm.
how can we really claim that humans can't direct their common lives intelligently? Especially, he adds, when there's nothing in the inherent nature of habit that prevents intelligent method from becoming itself habitual?
It's a powerful challenge.
What would it truly look like, do you think, to make that method of intelligence genuinely supreme in education? And maybe even how could you apply it more in your own life, facing daily challenges?
We really hope this deep dive has given you a richer feel for John Dewey's enduring insights and maybe offered some new ways to think about the experiences that truly shape and educate you.